So my plan today was supposed to be an update on the dual socket 56 core machine. I got my heatsink from Supermicro. I got my instructions. Look at this, color instructions. Wow, amazing. I got my cooler, and I specifically said, the motherboard uses the square ILM. It doesn't match up because these are for the narrow ILM and the motherboard uses the square ILM. And I cried. First I was sad, and then I was mad, and then I was super excited because I actually had something that might even be cooler to show off to you guys. So check this out. This is the world's highest box to card sized ratio video card that has existed in at least 10 years, because this used to be a thing. Like, I remember back when ASUS would have video card boxes that were literally like this big. Chain Tech, like those companies, they had these giant boxes. And the idea was that they were too cheap to buy shelf space, to buy frontage space in the retail stores, right? Because that's what you have to do. That's how the retail industry works. They were too cheap to buy the placements, so they just made these gigantic boxes so they wouldn't have to pay, but they would have to get a ton of space on the shelf. Isn't it brilliant? I mean, where's Chain Tech at today, right? Anyway, so Zotac has apparently just reused a box from an existing GTX 1080 Ti. You would think, except that this ArcticStorm thing here that looks like a sticker in this mini, these aren't stickers. They specifically went out of their way to create this gigantic box for this tiny graphics card. But its size should not dissuade you. It should not tell you anything about its power, because this is a full-fledged GTX 1080 Ti, and it is the size of like a 1050. So Zotac has not only engineered a full 1080 Ti into something that is the same size as their previous 1080 Mini, they have also created a fully custom water cooling solution. So you can see here they've got coverage for the VRMs right here. They've got pads on the memory modules right here and right down this side. And then they've got a GPU contact area for the 1080 Ti. So they have created a fully custom water block solution for it as well. Now, I do have some misgivings about their water block design. It does not appear to be all copper, which, depending on your loop configuration, may be an issue for you or may not. I'm actually a huge fan of what EK's done with their aluminum lineup of products. All aluminum products that are lower cost and designed to go together. But if you're mixing and matching, you can run into issues even if you use anti-corrosive additives. So what all we got here? We do get a DVI port. We get 3 DisplayPort ports. We get 1 HDMI. We get a slightly taller than a PCI bracket PCB. So they have cheated a little bit there, but you gotta kind of give them that, because realistically, with all of this space on the top for the connections, you were gonna have to have a bit more space above the card in your case anyway. Now, one thing I wish they had done was, rather than come out this way, I wish that they had gone with fittings on the top and on the bottom like this. But again, I gotta go easy on them. Dual 8-pin connectors, so I would expect to be able to overclock the stuffing out of this thing. And in terms of included accessories, they got a couple 6 to 8 pins, and then they've got a couple of 3/8-inch fittings. I still remember back when 1/2-inch fittings used to be the cat's pajamas. And oh, interesting. I think these are aluminum. Okay, so yeah, it's aluminum block. Intended to be used with aluminum products, I would recommend, or at the very least, make sure you use a healthy mix of anti-corrosive additive. All right, so to fully appreciate the scale of this thing, I want to show it next to a couple of other cards. First of all, here is a Titan XP collector's edition. So it is that much shorter. It is a little bit taller. See this? There we go. So it is a little bit taller, but it should, theoretically, actually that would be really interesting, it should only take up a single PCIe slot if you were to cut off the DVI port like we did in our single slot Titan mod. Then, compared to one of the most ginormous graphics cards of all time, the 6990, this thing has way more power, much smaller size, and it'll run completely silently, assuming that you have a water cooling loop. Whew. So there you have it. I don't really have a standard outro for these classic unboxings. Subscribe and like, and maybe we'll run the credits if someone other than me chops it together.